Stetson Entrepreneurial Group. I want to start by thanking you all for coming out tonight to this amazing event. After the presentation, there will be a brief Q&A period, and don't forget to get your Stetson ID scanned for cultural credit as you leave. If you were some of the few that are doing the roundtable afterwards, you know who you are. Please stay after until everyone leaves. We have a couple of shout-outs to give before we start. The first to Campus Vibrancy for organizing this event and reaching out to my organization, the Stetson Entrepreneurial Group, which is headed under the Joseph C. Prince Entrepreneurship Program and advised by the Dr. Oliphants. It is a cross-disciplinary program and open to all majors. My final thanks goes out to Housing and Residential Life for all of their amazing volunteers. And without further ado, it is my utmost pleasure. Please join me in welcoming Ben and Jerry.
Hello, I'm the Jerry, that's the Ben. Thank you. We are incredibly excited to be here, so thank you guys so much for coming out. People standing in the back, this is incredible. Just thrilled beyond words, so thank you guys so much. So Ben and I are going to talk about how we started doing what we're doing, how we've tried to operate the business. Who knows, Ben might talk about more than that even. One thing I think that's helpful to understand is that Ben & Jerry's is no longer an independent company. So it got bought about 15 years ago by this larger company called Unilever. And Unilever has a bunch of different brands probably that you've heard of. They have Wishbone salad dressing, ragu spaghetti sauce. They have a very good sense of humor. On the same day they bought Ben & Jerry's, they also bought Slim Fast. And selling the company was not something we wanted to do. But Ben & Jerry's was a public company at the time, which meant anybody could purchase shares, and Unilever offered so much money that our board was not able to find an alternative for the shareholders. So Ben and I both still work at the company. We're employees, but we're not involved in the management or the operations. We have jobs where we have no responsibility and also no authority. So if you like what's going on at the company, you don't really get to thank us. And if you don't like what's going on at the company, you definitely don't get to blame us. So Ben and I are old friends from junior high school. We met when we were 13 years old. We grew up in Long Island. We met in gym class, running around the track because we were the two slowest, fattest kids in the class. And there was a pack of kids up in the front, and there was Ben and me in the back, and the coach was yelling at us, "Gentlemen, you've got to run the mile in under 7 minutes. If you don't, you're going to have to do it again." And Ben would yell back at the coach, "Gee, coach, if I don't do it in under 7 minutes the first time, I'm certainly not going to do it in under 7 minutes the second time." And that was when I realized that Ben was somebody I wanted to get to know. We went through junior high school and high school together. After high school, Ben did not want to go to college, but his parents wanted him to go. His father and his older sister filled out his applications for him. He ended up choosing Colgate in upstate New York because the brochure said they had fireplaces in the dorm rooms. Ben thought that was really cool. So Ben went to school there for 1.5 years, and he dropped out of school. A little while later, he went back to school at Skidmore College. He dropped out of there too. He went to New York University for a while. He dropped out of there. And then Ben signed up with one of these really progressive college programs called University Without Walls. So at University Without Walls, you don't have to go to class because the world is your campus. And you don't have to take tests, you get credit for learning. And Ben dropped out of there too. Still a little too much structure for Ben. And he worked a series of jobs. Ben was a taxi cab driver in New York City. He was a short order cook. He was a pottery wheel deliverer. He was a night mopper. He was a baker's helper. This was in a period of about 2 or 3 years, so he was not on the career path. I, on the other hand, went to college. I did 4 years straight. I was pre-med. I applied to medical school and was rejected from medical school. I got a job as a lab technician in a biochemistry research lab so that I could fortify my resume, and I reapplied to medical school, and I was rejected from medical school again. And then I got another job as a lab technician in a biochemistry research lab because I already had experience. That's all I knew how to do. So this is what Ben and I were doing. We were essentially failing at everything we were trying to do, and we thought, well, why don't we try to get together, do something that's fun, be our own bosses, and since we always like to eat quite a bit, we thought we would do something with food. We picked homemade ice cream, didn't know anything about it. We learned how to make ice cream from a $5 correspondence course from Penn State University. We were really broke at the time, so we split one course between us. It was $2.50 apiece. We got 100 on all our open book tests, and we figured we were ready to make ice cream. And then we needed to find a place to open up. So Ben and I had the idea that we wanted to live in a rural college town. We wanted to live in a college town, and determined that all the warm, rural college towns already had ice cream parlors. So we threw out the idea of warm, and we picked Burlington, Vermont. It's a beautiful place. It's the home of the University of Vermont. And it's about an hour south of the Canadian border. And it's so cold all the time that there were no other ice cream parlors there. But that was fine with us. So we moved to Burlington, and then we needed to raise some money. So Ben and I had each saved $4,000. Together, we had $8,000. And we were going to go into the local bank and try to borrow some money. And as we thought about it, we realized the local bank might not be really excited about lending us money because we were quite young. We were 26 years old. We had just moved to Burlington, Vermont, so we didn't have any roots there. We didn't have any families. We weren't married. We probably didn't seem too stable. We didn't have any job experience. We didn't have any business experience. We didn't have any ice cream experience. We didn't have any assets. We didn't have any collateral. So we thought, well, if we're going to try to get a bank to give us some money, we'll need to write a really good business plan. Ben and I did not know how to write a business plan. But we have a friend, Jeff Furman, who used to work for the Small Business Administration in New York City. And Jeff got us a copy of a business plan that was from a pizza parlor in New York. And what Ben and I did was we essentially copied the business plan, except every place where it said slice of pizza, we crossed it out and we wrote in ice cream cone. And we submitted it into the bank with a loan request for $18,000. So the bank, in turn, resubmitted the proposal back to the Small Business Administration to see if they could get what was called an SBA guaranteed loan. If the SBA would guarantee the loan, the bank would be at no risk. So they sent the loan back to the Small Business Administration, and the SBA approved this loan again. Apparently, they really liked this business plan. They approved it upon us finding a location that they thought was suitable. So we looked all around Burlington. We fell in love with this old abandoned gas station that was 1 block off the main street in town, and it was right across the street from a park. but we couldn't get a long-term lease on the building, and the SBA didn't think that was adequate. So we never got the money from the SBA. We went back to the bank. They gave us $4,000 to go with our $8,000. So we had $12,000 to open up this ice cream parlor when we thought we had needed $26,000. So, we needed to make a few changes to the business plan. We bought all used equipment. The ice cream machine we bought was a used 5-gallon rock, salt, and ice cream machine. Kind of like a home ice cream maker, only it made 5 gallons at a time, and it had a more. The more money we took off the price of a cone, but not even that was enough to get people in the door. So we got through the winter by selling ice cream to some of the local restaurants that had been asking for it. The next summer came, another beautiful summer, making ice cream, scooping ice cream. The winter came, couldn't figure out what to do. Ben had a really good idea. Ben, we always had all these salespeople that would stop into our shop, and they would sell us things like, chocolate syrup or napkins or things like that. And Ben thought that these salespeople had great jobs, that essentially they drove around in their cars all day listening to music on great sound systems. And they'd stop into a store and they'd sell them something, but mostly they'd be listening to music in their cars. And Ben decided this is what he wanted to do. So Ben had this old station wagon that we put a really nice sound system into. And then we built an insulated styrofoam box that fit right in the back of the station.
Your business supports the community supports your business. We're all interconnected. And as we help others, we cannot avoid helping ourselves. Well, despite this being a truth that's written over and over again in the Bible, it meets with incredible resistance. A lot of derision from places like the Wall Street Journal. Here's what the philosopher Schopenhauer had to say about situations like this. He said that all truth goes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. Third, it is accepted as being self-evident. So we're somewhere along that continuum now in terms of business. On with the way elections are financed in the United States. So, I'm going to drop some babies. Here's one. That is the equivalent of $600. And now I'm going to drop in the amount of BBs that represent how much 90% of the American people donate to politicians. That was nothing. And now I'm going to put in the amount of BBs that represents how much 10 people in the next 9% donate. The average, 10 people, their average donation. That was 1 BB. So the average donation of the next 9% is $60 a piece. 10 of them would be $600. And now I'm going to put in the amount of BBs that demonstrates how much the average person in the top 1% donates. That was 6 BBs, $3,600. And now I'm going to demonstrate how much the average of the top 100 contributing corporations donate to politicians. 10,000 BBs, the equivalent of $6 million. In the words of my friends at Occupy Wall Street, shit is fucked up. What every revolution has ever been about. Numbers of people being more powerful than the entrenched, uncorruptible, with liberty and justice,
For all!
So stick around, we're going to do a couple questions. Right? So raise your hand if you have a question, stand up and say it. I'll repeat it so everyone can hear. Any questions? Okay, we have one.
For one, as a former Occupy protester, thank you for the ice cream at Sky Park. It was amazing. Love seeing your vans show up. I do have a question about what Ben & Jerry's is doing about climate change and how I saw on your website that you have flavors that are disappearing because of climate change, but what are you actively doing to, as a company, do this?
So the question is about what's Ben & Jerry's doing about climate change. Ben & Jerry's has a climate change initiative. So the company is going around the country, giving out free ice cream, trying to sign people up with a nonprofit organization called Avaaz, AVAAZ.org. This is a leading climate change organization that's organizing for the Paris talks. And in addition, Ben & Jerry's has come out with an ice cream flavor.
From Nabisco's legal department. Apparently, the lawyers in their legal department had changed, and they said, you may no longer pluralize our trademark. You can call your ice cream mint with Oreo cookies. So we did that, and came out with it. And then we were trying to get our ice cream to be kosher, and the rabbi came to kosherize our ice cream and said, "Oh no, can't do it with the Oreos because there's lard and that white stuff." And so we stopped using Oreos and we switched to some other,